Hello and welcome to a Talmud Israeli production. Today we'll review the highlights of this week's course of Daf Yomi study, Masechet Sotah pages 46 through 49, and Masechet Gittin pages 2 through 4. Sotah Memvav 46. The elders of the town nearby where a dead body was found, a corpse was found, and they don't know who killed this person. So it's an unsolved homicide. The elders of that town have to go through the procedure of the decapitated heifer, the Egla Arufa. And they say, as a liturgical component of this, our hands did not shed this blood, and our eyes did not see. So the Gemara incredulously asks, do we really think that the elders of the court were themselves guilty of murder, that they were direct participants in this grisly act? Ella lo adenu Rather, no, there's no suspicion that they personally killed the guy. Rather, what they are saying is, we did not allow this person to come into our hands in our community knowingly and allow him to go without bread or without food. And we didn't let him leave town without an escort. That had we known he was present, we would have taken good care of him. We didn't know he was here. And because we didn't know he was here, we didn't escort him along the way, and that's how he died. Mem Zayin, 47. When the number of murders increased in the land of Israel, so that society was no longer the pacified society of the Torah, but rather a rough and tumble world where people are dying left and right at the hands of others, no more decapitated heifer ceremony, no more Egla Rufa. The halachic basis for it was the idea that when homicides are rare, you really don't know who did it because there's no murderer class. However, when society has become very violent, there are the so-called usual suspects. The class of people who are engaged in a violent crime, one of them committed the murder. So since we roughly know approximately who it was, there's no more reason for Egla Rufa. It will simply not be done. And Mishrebu Manafim, when the number of adulterers increased in society, Pasku Mamarim, they stopped giving the Sotah potion. No more trial by ordeal for the Sotah. Why? Because again, when society is a chaste society, behaving within the standards of the Torah for personal intimacy, then it's an outlier that somebody does something wrong, commits an act of adultery, and the trial by ordeal will work not only to test the drinker of the potion, the woman who drinks, but as a way of intimidating society that you got to behave yourselves. However, when everybody's sinning, the trial by ordeal is a joke. It's no longer intimidating anybody. No one's afraid of it. So, not to make a mockery out of it, it won't be done anymore. Memchet 48. The Gemara talks about how when certain of the great righteous sages died, the people exclaimed, woe unto us, that we've lost a humble man, a righteous, pious man. They wanted to say that about Yehuda ben Bava. However, in the end, they did not do so. Nitbrafasha, the opportunity didn't present itself. Because we do not say eulogies, certainly overflowing eulogies, about someone who was executed by the government. Yehuda ben Bava died for the cause of Judaism. He ordained disciples, despite the Roman decree not to ordain any disciples, and they killed him for it. So to eulogize in any public way a man who was executed by the state would get everybody into trouble. And in order to avoid further problems with the government, just be quiet. Memtet. The last daf in Masechet Sotah has a Mishnah which mentions various pulmusim, the troubles, the times of difficulty when there was Roman-Jewish conflict and the unpleasant reality after that conflict. The first war was known as the Great Revolt between 66 and 70 CE. This is identified by the Mishnah as Pulmus Shel Aspasianus, the era of Vespasian, because Vespasian was a Roman general who then was elevated to become the Roman emperor, and during his time the temple was destroyed. The second one is Pulmus Shel Titus, the era of Titus. However, that's probably a mistake, because Titus was Vespasian's son and was the general who oversaw the destruction, while his father was at that point already the emperor. Most likely, this is a scribal error, and what really should say is Pulmus Shel Kitus, Quietus, because Lucius Quietus was a Roman official in the land of Israel during the era of the Diaspora Revolt. The second great Roman Jewish war was between 115 and 117, mostly in the diaspora, but a little bit also in the land of Israel. And it was a very bloody conflict in which the Jews first were on the offensive, and then the Jews got crushed. The last one is Pulmus HaAcharon, the final Pulmus, which is really the era of Bar Kokhba, 132 to 135, a massive revolt in Eretz Yisrael of the Jews against Roman authority, but sadly ended in the Jews being defeated and was followed by persecution of Judaism. Now let's turn to Masechet Gittin. We're starting this week. Daf Bet, page 2. Ein davar she'erva pachot mishnayim. Matters of erva, of the laws concerning matrimonial law and intimacy law, any new piece of evidence must be established by testimony of two people. You can't have pachot mishnayim, less than two. This is in contrast to another area of the halacha also mentioned in this daf, that of eid echa ne'eman b'yisurin, that even one witness is believed in matters of prohibitive law. In basic issues of kashrut and the like, we can trust the say-so of one person. We don't need the testimony of a pair of witnesses. But erva, that's in a category by itself, nothing less than two. Daf Gimel, page 3. Rabbi Elazar Amar, Afal pi she'ein edim lav, even though there are no witnesses who signed onto a get, a divorce document, however, it was delivered, it was given over to the woman by the husband in the presence of witnesses. Kasher, it's kosher, so nothing on the page, but people saw it happen. Why does Rabbi Elazar say this? Because the only reason for witnesses to sign their signature on the get document is for tikkun olam. What is tikkun olam? The improvement of the world. In this instance, it means that if the witnesses who saw the delivery were eventually to die, then there would no longer be any evidence available for the woman to prove that she was divorced. So, as a fallback option, we have written evidence of signatures on a piece of paper. But that's just the fallback option. You don't really need it ab initio. Now, it's important to recognize that the words tikkun olam in modern times have been used in other ways entirely, as somehow good actions which improve the world at the global to macro level. However, tikkun olam in Talmudic language doesn't really mean that. It usually means there's a lacuna in the law. The law has a flaw in it that has to be corrected by some remediation. In this case, the flaw in the law is that if you had only witnesses who saw the delivery and they died, the woman would be out of luck. The solution to improve her circumstances and anyone in a similar circumstance is require witnesses to sign the page. Daf Dalet. Maybe you get Medina Eretz Yisrael. What happens if you have witnesses, emissaries who bring a get document from one province to another province within the land of Israel? Lo tzarach. They don't need to say the formula that the get was written and signed in my presence, which is something they would have to do if they brought the get from outside of Israel to Israel. However, within Israel, you don't need to do that. Why? Because there are the people who travel on pilgrimage to Jerusalem, who are always going back and forth from one province to another in Israel. You'll always find people who are available to verify the legitimacy of this document. And so, since we don't have to worry about there not being evidence to this effect later on, it's unnecessary for the emissary now to say, I saw it signed and written. Everyone have a great week.